A place on the railway that I have long wanted to video and document is the ROC, that's the Rail Operations Centre down at Three Bridges. So I'm here at East Croydon to meet Chris and his colleague Tim to get a train, and we're going to go to a few places along the way.
So coming up, we're going to go and visit a signal box from the 1880s, complete with a look at its mechanical interlocking. Then we'll jump forward in time to the 1980s with a visit to the Area Signalling Centre at Three Bridges for a behind-the-scenes look there. And then finally, we enter the Rock. That's the Rail Operating Centre, one of the most modern signalling centres, which replaced over 800 signal boxes when it opened in 2014. But our first stop is to Littlehampton to visit this Type 2 signal box built in 1886 by the London and Brighton and South Coast Railway. It's now Grade 2 listed, but is very still much in operation today.
What you can see here is the lever frame that the signaller uses to operate points and signals in the Littlehampton area. Red levers are operating signals. The black levers that you can see are operating points at this location. The white ones are now redundant, so they're things that used to be operated from this signal box that aren't required anymore. At some point, track layout, for example, will have been rationalised. This is what we call the block shelf. The most important thing on the block shelf is the signal box diagram, and this is what the signaller will use to see the location of trains in this area. So each of these indications here have got lamps in them that will light up when a train is present. It's broken down the different colours, the different sections of track circuits which occupy with the passage of trains, and you can see on the diagram various numbered symbols. They relate to the points and the signal number. So number 24 there is a set of points, and as you can see, number 24 lever is down here. The other key things on the block shelf is the train describer. So this is telling the signaller the trains that are approaching their position. So you can see Littlehampton up here, and then Arundel Junction area around here and as far as Barnham. So the signaller has visibility of what they've got approaching their location.
As the trains rumble past outside, I know in a moment I'll go below my feet to the interlocking machine room, which is beneath us. But not until Tim has explained that signals are in effect just switches.
So it's a bit like your light switch. Sometimes when you operate your light switch, the light doesn't go on, the bulb might have blown. So in this particular signal box, what we've got is the position of the lever tells us that these set of points have been operated to the reverse position by the signaller, but we don't know they've actually gone reverse until we look at this indication. This indication is critical. It's got an R in it, means it's reverse. If the signaller put this back to normal, back in the frame, you'd see the light go up that was normal. And if the points had failed in some way, that would be blank, and the signaller must use the indications that they've got to check that the signal's actually done what it's supposed to do. I suppose the other thing to say is you might notice there's some levers that are longer than others. The reason for that is that these shorter levers, where effectively the top's been cut off, these are all electrical equipment, whereas the taller ones, let's look at the signals, these signals here are all being operated mechanically. So let me find a signal. That is an electric signal. This is just an electrical switch. These levers here are mechanical. When you pull this lever, it'll operate a system of wiring that goes out to a semaphore signal to clear the signal outside. It's a mechanical operation, and obviously pull in a signal that's mechanical, there's a different weight to it than there would be an electrical signal, so it's helpful just to indicate in the signal box what you're operating.
All right, time to go down below and have a look in detail at the interlocking room.
What you can see here is the bottom of the levers that we operate. So you saw 19 points, 19 signal operated upstairs. The numbers on this wooden beam across here relate to the levers. So that's number 19 lever here, operated through here. That'll be some form of electrical interlocking of some sort, but the main interlocking element of a lever frame is designed around not being able to operate levers that could cause conflicting move, and all that is done in this kind of interlocking tray. I don't know what the actual term for it is, but in here there'll be a load of bars for each lever and a number of kind of tappets that slot into different slots of the levers.
But that's the incredible thing. Interlocking has been around since what year? What day?
Oh, the 1800s,
1956 it was.
But this is before computers. So we think of like modern day computers as being, you know, I'm trying to think when
Electronics.
Electronics.
Well, I had when I was a kid at school, yeah.
But this is pre-electronics by many decades.
Depends what your definition of computer is, because in a way I think of this as a computer. Computers just work on logic. This is a mechanical
it's a logical mechanical
system that only allows certain outcomes.
That's incredible.
It is a computer in another way of thinking about it.
Did signal boxes actually invent computing?
I'll let you decide that, Geoff.
I'm going to ask Chris that.
I'm a railwayman. I like to think we did.
I'll ask Chris that tricky question on the train later.
Yeah.
He's off camera. He's got time to prepare his answer.
And before we head off to our next location, we realise there's just enough time and I get offered the chance to have a go myself.
We've got explicit permission. I can pull number 19.
Yeah.
The washing machine.
It's the washing
Siding,
machine
son.
siding. It's a washing plant for trains.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
Yeah.
And because there's nothing in there, I can pull number 19.
Yeah, and
But
I haven't given you permission.
the
signaller's
signalman
in
has.
charge.
The signaller who's in
The
charge.
signaller knows the arrangements here, they know what the effect is, and this signal you can clear because there won't be any impact on the railway.
But I'm using a tea towel because it's an old tradition to sort of to care after the levers.
yeah, and these levers have been highly polished by the signallers at this location to keep the place looking
That's incredible.
looking good. Stand kind of straight onto it.
Yep.
Yeah, like that.
One hand or two, just one. Pull.
Let's have a go and see what happens.
That's okay. If we look out there, it's moved.
Yeah.
Do I put it back as well?
Having successfully pulled some signalling levers, it was time to go and push some signalling buttons. So we're taking a trip to Three Bridges. Before we get to our next location though, time to have a quick chat with Chris.
So the first signal box was in the 1840s. It was built at Bricklayers Arms, and that's where trains would split off to go to Croydon in one direction and then South East London in the other. Up until then you had railway policemen, and they would usually stand next to their signal or be in the station. And they were called railway policemen, which is why to this day we still call signallers bobbies, or some people still call signallers bobbies.
That's true.
That's true, yeah, because they were policemen, so yeah.
And we're going to this much more modern
Yeah.
signalling centre, which is a world away apart from levers and cables.
So it is and it isn't.
Right.
So the guy who introduced interlocking was a bloke called John Saxby, and you may have heard of the manufacturer of signal boxes, Saxby and Farmer, and that's the guy. And the idea of interlocking was that it essentially stopped signallers from being able to make catastrophic mistakes. So if you cleared a train on a particular route, then you wouldn't be able to physically move the levers to clear another train across it until it had gone. And they did that mechanically using, like you saw at the signal box, big metal rods. And essentially, I mean, I like to think that a signal box is basically, an old signal box is like a prototype computer.
And at Three Bridges, we get to the Three Bridges ASC, that's the Area Signalling Centre, which opened in 1983. Tim fills us in again with all the info.
So, Three Bridges ASC is a signalling centre, dates back to the 1980s when it was first created. And you basically see behind me, you see the panel for Brighton Station. Three Bridges ASC is the epicentre of the Brighton Main Line. So, as you move from Brighton, round through Haywards Heath, and the panels gradually work round through the Three Bridges, Gatwick area, right through to Norwood, which is directly behind you at the moment. So it's running the vast majority of the Brighton Main Line from this building.
And even though it is more modern from the 1980s, the basic principles that we saw in the Littlehampton Signal Box still apply here.
So we're at the panel here operating Brighton Station here. It operates Hove and up to Preston Park. It has the depots at Lovers Walk where GTR stable trains. And if you look at the panel there, what you see is the buttons with the yellow lights on them at the top actually relate to points operation. Most of the time signallers don't need to operate those individually. They can operate using the panel below. So on the panel below you see a track diagram for the area that the signaller's controlling, and each of the buttons relate to a signal. So to clear a route, instead of operating levers, the signaller can press a button for the entrance to the route they want to set. It might be at Brighton Station, entrance button, and then they press the next button for the exit, what we call the exit for that route, which will be another, normally another signal. Press the entrance, press the exit, the points in that route, everything will set up automatically for the signaller using relays downstairs in the equipment room, and the route will set, and they can do that for the next route and so on between signals.
And behind us is the panel for Crawley, where there's a level crossing gate.
As you can see, this train is approaching Crawley, 1 Charlie 48. CCTV's been activated on the crossings, so any moment now I need to start getting the crossings down. By doing that, I'll just press lower, and you'll see the red lights will show up in a second, the icons, just to warn the motorists, and make sure it's all clear. And I'll lower them. Right, as you can see, the barriers are now lowered. Crossing is now clear. This crossing is clear. No one's attempted to jump. Cars are stopped. Again, check it again. Make sure it's all clear. Then I'm going to press crossing clear, because it's now clear. That'll go off. Check again. All 4 corners. That's clear. Now I shall signal the train from 625 to 627, and you'll see the light will come off there ready to proceed.
And the final stop on our tour today is to the ROC. That's the Rail Operating Centre that's also here at Three Bridges. Eventually, it will control all of the railway from London Victoria and London Bridge stations down the length of the Brighton Main Line to Brighton and the South Coast, and large areas either side in both Surrey and Sussex. And inside, it's extremely impressive.
One of my favourite all-time childhood films is Matthew Broderick in War Games, where he prevents a nuclear war taking place. And the climax of that film takes place in the US defence facility known as NORAD, which is this kind of like underground bunker in the mountains. And you go in, and there's like 1,000 screens in there lit up with information. I've pretty much walked into NORAD today, or the railway equivalent of it, here in the ROC, the ROC. It says like, there could be 1,000 screens in here. It's at least 100. It's so many monitors, all monitoring, watching the railway network.
We're in the Thameslink core pod here at Three Bridges ROC. This workstation is core south, and the one just to the left there is core central. So this takes you from just outside London Bridge Station on the approach to London Bridge on lines 4 and 5 and platform 4 and 5 at London Bridge Station. It then takes you on the Snow Hill lines up into Blackfriars Station, and then on through the Thameslink core towards Farringdon. So this is one of the most high-tech bits of railway that's operating in the Network Rail operation today. We've got track circuit block signalling, fairly normal sort of signalling, computer-based interlockings, but what's a bit unusual about this railway is the fact that we're operating ETCS. There's a small number of locations now with ETCS, but even more unusual for this part of the rail is the automatic train operation, which London Underground does a lot of, but for us in the like GB rail, Network Rail area, this is the only place I'm aware of where we're operating in automatic train operation.
But if the trains are automated, why do you still need signallers?
At this stage of the operation here, the signallers are still responsible. They're still doing the same job that the signaller we saw at Littlehampton's doing. They are manually routing trains at the moment. On these particular workstations, we don't have automatic route settings, so the signaller's still responsible for clearing every signal. We have some auto facilities on there, but at junction areas, it's the signaller that's doing the thinking, they're doing the regulating, they're clearing signals for the passage of the train. But when the signaller operates those signals, that goes through the interlocking, it communicates with the train, and depending on whether the driver's enabled ETCS and ATO on the train, the commands that the signalling system is making is automatically communicating with the train so that the train can automatically drive.
Feels like we've travelled through time from the signal box of the 19th century to here, very much in the 21st century.
The difference is just vast, isn't it? It's fascinating to go from one end of technology to the other.
But the principles are still basically the same.
Yeah.
The signaller's job is still to run trains to the timetable as best we possibly can, keep trains safely apart, and all the principles, the way the signaller, the rules, the process the signaller works to at Littlehampton are identical to the processes the signallers work to here.
And even Chris, who already knows this, appreciates that being a signaller is a highly skilled job.
I can visualise myself being a signaller and pulling levers, or in the NX panel pushing buttons, because it's all kind of really obvious it's there. Here in the workstation, I think these guys to hold all that information in their head, and then if it goes wrong, you know, start ringing train drivers and talking them past signals, and you know, remembering what goes where and how to act when things don't go according to plan. I think it's absolutely incredible, yeah, I think I'm glad I'm doing media and not signalling.
It turns out that I could sit and watch signalling all day.
We sort of have to leave now, but I don't want to leave because I could sit and watch the signallers do their job all day. And 9 Oscar 6-3, and yes, they all use the phonetic alphabet just without thinking about it. It's coming down, and then the signaller here, she set the path for the train to come into Sutton, and the little white light comes up, and that's the train that's going to go around the loop through Sutton Common, through West Sutton, through St Helier, up to Wimbledon, platform 9, which I know very well. I changed it a lot, and it's just amazing just to sit and watch the little red trains go along the white sections as they make their way around. We have to go, don't we, Chris? We have to go. I know. I want to sit and watch signallers do their job.
No, why don't you get a job as a signaller and then you can do it all day?
Are you saying if I ever don't make it as a filmmaker, I should get a job as a signaller? Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, I think the likes of you and I think we know what we're good at.
And as we left, I wanted to flash back to a question I'd asked Chris earlier on the train about semaphore signals.
We've still got semaphore signals on the railway today, which may surprise some people. Will they ever be all replaced?
Oh, eventually I'm sure they will be, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
So not in the next even 5 or 10 years?
No,
50 years?
Well,
where might be the last semaphore signal that's replaced on the UK's railways?
Honestly, so look, there's 2 reasons why you do a re-signalling scheme, right? Number one is if the equipment itself is so life expired, we call it, you can't maintain it anymore. And the other one is if you suddenly want to run a lot more trains than the existing signalling can cope with. And there are parts of the country where there are signal boxes where the equipment is basically mechanical, it can continually be maintained, the parts are still around, or we can machine the parts to keep it going, and where you're never going to need to run lots more trains. And in those areas, I mean, why would you re-signal it? There's not really a huge driver to do that. So there are certain places I think will still happen for some time yet.
So there you go, from 19th century signal boxes through the 1980s into the 21st century. That is a look at signalling on the network today. My thanks to Chris and to Tim for all his wonderful, brilliant knowledge, and to everyone we met and spoke to, and to Raoul for the invite. We're on the platforms at Three Bridges, just awaiting our train home. If you've enjoyed today's video / documentary, thanks for watching. Press subscribe. Bye.